Good afternoon and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about relative pronouns, les pronoms relatifs for 10th standard students of the Goa board. Now before I start, I want to make it very clear that the style in which I'm going to be teaching relative pronouns in this video is the style in which it's going to be asked for the batch of April 2021. This is a new style which has been effected by the Goa board strictly for this academic year, which is the fill in the blank style and not the joining style. Okay, relative pronouns for class 10. You are given three sentences in your exam. You have to answer any two. You get 1 mark per blank, that is 1 mark per sentence. Will give you a total of 2 marks for this topic. Now, let's quickly recall what relative pronouns are. You have done this in English grammar, it's the same thing. Okay, so if any two sentences have something common in them, which we call a common factor or a link, okay, there is something common in two sentences, you can join them into one sentence with the help of a relative pronoun. So let's look at some examples in English which will jog your memory as to what relative pronouns really are. Okay, so my brother likes sports. My brother is older than me. Can you see that my brother is repeating twice here? In both the sentences, my brother is there, right? So in order to avoid two sentences which are talking about the same thing, we can use a relative pronoun who. Okay, my brother who is older than me likes sports. So you're saying the same thing but in one sentence because you're not repeating the common factor or the link between the two sentences, right? Same way, the cat is in the box, the cat's fur is soft. Now, again, this is two sentences where you're talking about the same thing. You're talking about the cat only, right? So a better way of saying it, you want to join it in one sentence, make it concise. The cat whose fur is soft is in the box. So you said the same thing, but you've made it into one sentence. You're not repeating the word cat, right? So whose here is the relative pronoun. Then she lived in Delhi. It rained often in Delhi. Again, you're talking about Delhi here twice, right? In order to join it into one sentence, you can say she lived in Delhi where it rained often, or you can also say it rained often in Delhi where she lived, right? So the purpose of a relative pronoun is to join two sentences into one. Two sentences, not any two sentences which are talking about the same thing, which have one particular common factor in them. Now, the four relative pronouns that you need to do at the class 10 level for Goa board is qui, que, dont, ou. These are the four that you need to do. Okay, there are many more like laquelle and lequel and all, but you don't have those. Okay, you just have the simple relative pronouns. Now let's begin with the first one. The first one is u. Okay, u is where or when. This is the easiest one to identify. It's when the link is concerning a place or a time. Okay, when the common factor is a place or a time, you will use u. So this will be given to you in the form of a fill in the blank. Okay, so tu visites quoi chaque mois dash il fait beau. Now what is being spoken about twice here? Tu visites quoi is one thing, right? The second thing is il fait beau à Goa. Right? So both the sentences, if they were split into two sentences, this is the imagination work that you need to do. Okay, if the sentence was split into two sentences, you need to imagine what the common factor would be. Okay, and then you see if that particular common factor is a place or a time, then you would have to use u. Okay, so tu visites Goa, il fait beau à Goa. So Goa is coming twice, it's a place, so you have to use u. Then, regardez ce jardin, dash, il y a de belles fleurs. Now, regardez ce jardin is one sentence. The second sentence, if you had to split it, would be il y a de belles fleurs dans ce jardin, right? So, ce jardin is repeating twice. Garden is a place. Therefore, you'll have to say, oh, look at the garden. Look at this garden where there are some beautiful flowers. Then, 2012, 2012, right? Dash, mon cousin est né, était superbe. Now, the two sentences, if you had to split this up, it would be 2012 était superbe or mon cousin est né en 2012, right? So 2012, 2012 is the common factor here. which is the time. Okay, don't forget, où is not only for places, it is also for time. Okay, so you'll have to use où because 2012, which is the common factor here, is a time. Then, c'est la ville dash Jonah habité pendant sa jeunesse. Now, if you have to split this into two, the first one is c'est la ville, right? And the second one would be Jonah habité dans cette ville pendant sa jeunesse, right? So what is repeating in the two sentences? La ville, okay, the city. So la ville is a place, so you will have to use où in the blank. Then le 12 février, c'était le jour dash la France a gagné la Coupe du Monde. Now, the first sentence would be le 12 février, c'était le jour. And the second sentence would be la France a gagné la Coupe du Monde le 12 février, right? So the common factor when you're talking about the two sentences, the common factor will be le 12 février, which is 12 February is a date, which is in other words a time word, right? So when talking about a time as a common factor, I've highlighted the common factors here for you in blue. The common factor is a time, it will give you où as the relative pronoun. Let's go to the next one, which is donc. Now donc has two meanings, okay? Whose or of which. Now, what is the clue for donc? Donc is used when the linking, okay, when the sentences are joined for two reasons. One is due to indication of possession, like I gave you in the English example, the cat whose fur is soft. So the fur belongs to the cat, that is why we use whose. Okay, it's the same rationale when we're using donc. The second use of donc is when the word de is part of the phrase, like avoir besoin de. Okay, parler de, to talk of someone, to be in need of something, right? Avoir besoin de, parler de. Okay, whenever the word de is part of the phrase, then you have to use donc. That is when it becomes of which. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Mon cousin dash le chien a disparu est triste. Now here you're talking about your cousin. Okay, mon cousin. Now here again you have to split up the sentence into two. Its constituents. So mon cousin est triste is one sentence. Then le chien de mon cousin est triste. So my cousin is sad. The dog of my cousin disappeared. So what is the indication now? The dog of my cousin. Okay, it is a possession. My cousin's dog. In English, the apostrophe s is the indication of possession, right? So the possession indicates that it is donc. So in English, this would translate as my cousin whose dog disappeared is sad. Because the dog belongs to the cousin, we have to use donc. Next one. J'ai un portable dash. Le caméra ne fonctionne pas. So if we split this up, it will be j'ai un portable. The second sentence will be le caméra du portable ne fonctionne pas. So what is the indication again? The camera of the phone, okay, is not working. So what is the indication? It's an indication of possession. The camera belongs to the phone. So you have to say donc. So in English it would either be I have a phone whose camera is not working, or I have a phone of which the camera is not working. Then Sandra dash les lettres que tu as reçues est amicale. So the first sentence will be Sandra est amicale. Second sentence will be tu as reçu les lettres de Sandra. So les lettres de Sandra, it is an indication of possession. You received Sandra's letters, the letters of Sandra. So an indication of possession tells you have to put donc. So Sandra whose letters you received is friendly. Okay, now this sentence is a little different. There's no possession here. Akbar vont les crayons dash nous avons besoin. Now what is the expression here? It's avoir besoin de, right? So I told you whenever you have the expression ending with de, that is also when you have to use donc, because that is when donc becomes of which. So Akbar is selling the crayons, that is one. So Akbar vont les crayons is one. Second one is nous avons besoin de crayons. Can you see that the avoir besoin de? So that is also when you have to use donc. Akbar is selling the pencils of which we are in need. Okay, that is of which. Then Je voudrais emprunter quelques livres. Dash on ria beaucoup. So if you split this up again, I would like to borrow some books. Je voudrais emprunter quelques livres. And the second sentence would be on ria beaucoup de livres. Can you see the expression ending with the on ria beaucoup de livres? So whenever the expression ends with de, avoir beaucoup de, you will have to use dont. So it will become je voudrais emprunter quelques livres dont Henri a beaucoup. I would like to borrow some books of which Henry has a lot. Okay. So the clue for dont, it requires a little thinking on your part, little imagination. You have to split the sentence into two and then find out what the common factor is. If the common factor is a time or a place, then you have to use où. If the common factor shows an indication of possession, or when the phrase ends with the, then you have to use dont. The next two, that is qui and que, are a little on the confusing side. I will try to simplify it as much as possible and give you some hints as to how to go about it in the part 2 of this video on relative pronouns. Thank you.